Divas and Dudes. I'm Suzanne Parker and we are in Powerhouse Bakery. I'm excited to have you and I'd love to show you how to do a wonderful one-dish meal. We have the sassy stir fry ready to go today. It's a one-dish meal that I love because it's so versatile and it's full of bright colors. So we're going to start with chicken and look at all the veggies that we've cut. And in general, they can be anything as long as they're bright in color, and they're cut at very similar sizes so that they cook about the same time. And if they're small bite size, it's really nice too, so that you can get a bite of all the goodies at once. So in a typical stir fry, I'd like to see broccoli, and of course bell peppers and carrots, and then I love to add in the bright cabbage and the red and even purple onion. So really a fun mix of veggies. And look at all the ingredients we get to use as well. I added the asparagus, come to think of it, because I noticed that my beautiful veggie combination didn't have any green, so I had to add that. That's my my enchilada over there cooking away. You heard the timer, so you're gonna get to see that in a few minutes. So lots of color and lots of fun ingredients. In a typical stir fry, of course, the Asian flavors are the ones that come through, but of course I always have to add a little bit of fusion into what we do here at Powerhouse Bakery. So here are the traditional flavors. We've got some sesame oil, we've got some rice vinegar, we've got a little bit of honey, typical for Asian, right? You do some savory, you do some sweet, and then I've got a little bit of heat with some jalapeno, and I've got some red chili flakes, which are also really fun, and we have the traditional soy sauce. Now we're gonna venture. We're gonna change it up a little bit and add some of that element of fusion. So in this bowl, I have my famous sauced and spicy dipping. So in that, it's not your typical barbecue sauce. But of course, if you don't have sauced and spicy dipping, you can use a typical barbecue sauce. You'll still get something really close. You could even use a plum sauce, which is very traditional in a stir fry. But what makes that one unique is I've added Worcestershire, I've added organic maple syrup, I've added some fresh ginger, fresh garlic into a typical barbecue sauce. So it has lots of great flavors. The other things you're gonna see on here that are a little bit unusual, we have some toasted almonds, and we have some coriander, fennel, and sesame seeds. So all those ingredients are gonna go into our stir fry. And what I'm gonna show you is how to get the layers of the flavors to really stand out and pop, and make sure that we're getting lots of great protein and complex carbohydrates. Notice that this is the noodle that I love to use. This Annie Chun's is a really good one. It's a brown rice noodle. You can also find the same one that's organic brown rice, which I think is fabulous. Non-GMO, and it's just a really good product. If you want to eat gluten-free, you've got to find one that is going to be a rice base. You can certainly use one that's a quinoa base, or you could do one that's a bean base, like the Bonza noodle. But honestly, I think this one has the best soft flavor, so it's really popular. Okay, so let's get started on our chicken. I've cut up some of it already, and I just want to show you, we want to get some nice chunks. And again, I love to tell my staff that getting the similar size is really important, but we don't want to go too small because one, they cook too quickly, and we also want to really know what we're eating. So I usually talk them through getting about an inch, maybe an inch and a half cut pieces. We're using a organic chicken thigh here. I'm sorry, chicken breast, but we could do a thigh. I do love using both the thigh and the breast. I do cut off any visible fat, because in this dish we really want the bite to be just a beautiful tender piece of meat, not having any gristle around it. We're a little more lenient if we were cooking chicken on the bone. I wouldn't worry about cutting off all the pieces of maybe fat or gristle, but in this one we want it to be really tender. There we go. So that's beautiful chicken chunks. And so in a typical meal for 4, I would probably use 2 chicken breasts. I'm going to do a little bit extra today so that we've got plenty for our visitors here at Powerhouse Bakery. But just know that you don't need to have a lot of chicken in this dish. It's really nice to have an equal balance of the chicken and the veggies. So you don't really want to overdo the chicken. It's really nice to have it about 50-50. So there's my beautiful chicken. And now what I'm going to do is get some of the herbs and spices right on the chicken. And then in a couple minutes, I'm going to bring it over and do a quick saute with the sesame oil. And then if I need to finish off or I need a little more oil, I can always add some olive oil. But I want to start with that really good aroma and cooking technique in that sesame. So let me add in my fennel and my sesame seeds. I'm going to sprinkle that all around my chicken. And I could let it marinate. So again, I could just let it sit with those spices, or I could go ahead and add in a little bit of the sesame oil. If I didn't want to cook everything tonight, it would be easy to get this started on the weekend, and then I would have it halfway done, and it's so nice to be able to open up the fridge, grab the chicken, and just pop it in the skillet when everything is just already mise en place. So you know that term, mise en place, and that's when you put everything in its place, kind of like what I've done here to show you all these beautiful colors and flavors. But also in your home kitchen, it's really nice to do that. It just feels good to have everything organized and neatly measured out in these cute little bowls. Or you could even use little baggies. It's just easy to do. Okay, so I'm put a little bit of lime juice right on that chicken, and I'm just gonna let it sit there for a couple more minutes. And I'm gonna show us also how to cut this asparagus. So I had my team help me, and I wanted to kind of spend a little time showing you how beautiful the different cuts are. We did these carrots in a very fine julienne, and so it's just a little tool that you pull across the carrot and you get these beautiful pieces. The nice thing is it's going to cook really fast. With the asparagus, I'm going to cut them on the edge. Again, it just makes it a really pretty look. We don't want to just cut them plain because that's just, well, plain. Might as well make them look pretty. So I'm going to get rid of the edges, and I just do a twist and I cut. I'll show you that again. Cut off the edges, and I'm going to do an angle cut, twist it, and do it again. Twist it and do it again. So then it just looks kind of natural. It's got a nice angle to the cut, and it just makes it look so pretty in your plate. Okay, so I think our skillet is ready. I see it's spicy hot over there. And you know, when I used to do the Great TSA, they always said make sure you get a sizzle. So we're going to get it started right over here. All right, nice hot skillet, and I got the sizzle. All right, looking beautiful. So we want to get nice brown color. So I'm going to get that skillet nice and hot, and I want the pieces to stay right in that oil. I want to make sure, so I'm going to cook a little bit less. And I really want you to see how pretty. You want to get that chicken to have nice color. Now this is where you might want to watch your clock, because you want to make sure that chicken does not overcook. So get an eye for the color that the chicken's going to turn as it's starting to cook. So I've got my heat turned up, I did my sesame oil, and I did a little bit of olive oil, and now I'm just going to start to slowly add in my other ingredients. So I don't want to turn them too much, because see what happens is if I turn it, I'm not going to get the pretty brown on the base. So I'm going to keep it right there, and I'm going to start to build my other sauces. So in my other sauces, I'm going to add a little bit of sesame and soy sauce. So there's my soy sauce. Here is my sesame oil. So I started with some in that skillet, and now I'm just building my sauce. And I've got this beautiful honey that I'm going to add in as well. And so, again, the recipe that I'm going to give you has all the correct amounts for a home version. So in this one, I'm making a little larger than what you might be able to do at home, but you can always increase your sauce. So now I'm just mixing in that sesame oil and the soy sauce and a little bit of honey, and I'm letting that chicken get beautiful and brown. Here comes the coriander. So I'm going to put the coriander right on the fish as it's cooking. Looking gorgeous. Now here comes that sauced and spicy dipping. So remember, that's a kind of a special barbecue sauce that has ginger, extra garlic, and some Worcestershire. Lots of great flavors. This is going to ultimately be that wonderful sauce that I'm going to use for all of the vegetables. So we want to have a nice thickened sauce that we pour over, and then when we add the noodles, it's going to have enough grab on those noodles so that it'll be a wonderful one dish meal. Let's see, it's starting to get brown. Yes, starting to be real pretty. See how it starts to get a little bit more opaque? That's exactly what we want. So you should know your skillet well and get a feel for about how long it takes, and that's why you want to watch your clock and make sure you're getting the beautiful color without it getting dry. And I like how my skillet is not too wet in there. I don't want too much oil. I want to really keep it a light, beautiful dish. Okay, that looks awesome. And we'll give it another minute, and then we're going to get ready to add in our veggies. Notice that some of the chicken pieces are starting to get cooked all the way through, so that's just what we want. When the chicken looks like it's about 3/4 of the way cooked, that's when we're going to add in the rest of the veggies. So I'm at a medium-high heat, and I've added the flavors. I've added some soy sauce, and I'm going to start adding in a little bit of my marinade, which is that blend of honey. Notice that when the honey goes in, it's going to start getting a little browner because all those sugars are going to create that browning reaction, and that is going to make it, oh my gosh, so good. Starting to smell wonderful in Powerhouse Bakery. So check this out. This is medium. This is 3/4 of the way done. You can see how it's going opaque almost all the way through. So now we know our chicken is ready for the veggies. Here we go. So I've layered all the colors into my measuring cup so that the ones that go in first can handle a little more cooking than the ones down below. And I kind of cheated because I used some broccoli that was already steamed, and that's why I put it down at the very bottom. But you know, at home, it makes sense to sometimes use some leftover veggies. So that's exactly what we want. And look at these beautiful carrots. They're really finely shredded, and so they are going to cook quickly as well. And that's exactly what we want. So all the veggies are going to stay right on the top of that chicken because they don't need a lot of cooking, and we want to let that chicken finish up. And if any of you guys ever made it to one of my other cooking classes on Eat More Veggies, I did some asparagus, and I promise you it cooks like in 30 seconds. So I'm going to put these right on the top also, and just let that continue to steam just a little bit. While that's cooking, I'm going to make sure I've got all of my sauce ready. So again, I'm going to add the rest of my soft and spicy dipping. And again, it's going to be the recipe that I give you. My team gave me enough to do a double batch, actually a triple batch. So I'm giving you a good home-sized version. But look how that texture is really nice. It's already pretty thick all by itself, which is exactly what we love. I'm going to start to pour this around, and it's going to help cook up those veggies. Notice that I did not add any salt to the chicken because, of course, the soy sauce is already going to have a salty flavor, so we don't want to overdo that. Look at that. It's starting to look so gorgeous. And now I'm slowly letting those veggies fold into the chicken so that they're going to start to cook also. And believe me, it doesn't take long. I always have to really work with my staff to remember that it doesn't take long for a stir fry to cook. And if you want to cook it even faster, then of course your chicken pieces would be cut even smaller. Yeah, so that's looking beautiful. We'll give it 2 more minutes and then we'll pull it off. And I'll show you what the chicken looks like on the inside. But isn't that pretty? Whenever you're doing your stir fry, just make sure you get some bright purples and reds. Of course, the greens in different tones of greens always make it so nice, and that beautiful orange with your carrot. The other thing you want to try to do is get some nice texture variation, and that's why I added in that asparagus. I just thought that would be such a beautiful component. So give it a couple minutes, and then we'll add it to our noodles and plate it up. So now what I'm doing is pulling out the chicken. Look how beautiful it is. I'm going to cut into it so you can see how nicely it's cooked. So you saw it did not stay on the stove very long, and that's something that's, I think, so important. I'm going to pull out all the veggies and the chicken, and I want to thicken up this little bit of sauce. So I could even add more to it if I wanted to with the rest of my ingredients. You could add a little bit more of the barbecue. I've got a little bit more of the vinegar and honey, And so just adding a little more of all that good stuff. A little more soy sauce. This is also a time when you could add in some extra sauteed heat. So I'm gonna add in a little bit of the jalapeno, because now I'm gonna let it simmer just a little bit to reduce, and then I'm gonna add some cornstarch, which is the trick to thicken it up so that it'll stay on our beautiful noodles. So I've got some noodles already cooked, and I'm just gonna saute this a little bit and thicken it with the cornstarch. Remember that with cornstarch, you do have to first dissolve it in some water. So I've just put a little bit of water in this dish that I had my jalapenos in, and I'm just gonna drop a little bit of that cornstarch in and stir it. So you're making a little bit of a paste. What's important is you can't do hot in your cornstarch. It has to be cold. So that looks perfect. I'm gonna drop this in and start to stir it, and I'm gonna bring it right over to the skillet and over to the heat. And give me just a second, and I'm gonna heat this up. Simmering, I'm gonna show you how beautiful this chicken looks. It's cooked all the way through. Look at how nice that is. It's perfect. And the broccoli is nice and soft as well. It's not overly cooked. And remember, I even started with broccoli that was partially cooked already. So all the vegetables are really nice. Look at how beautiful this asparagus is. It's got a nice little crunch to it, and that's absolutely what we want. And if I wanted to add a little more heat to this sauce, I could add it there. Remember, I had the red chili flakes. I could add that. And at the very end is where I'm gonna add in my toasted almonds. So I've got my noodles already cooked, and now I'm gonna check on my sauce to see how much it's starting to thicken up. Let me just show you what's happening here. With cornstarch, as soon as it starts to boil, it's gonna thicken up. So it's not there yet. It's gonna take just about 30 seconds, and it'll start to thicken up, and I'll show you what it looks like. While that's thickening up, I'm gonna show you, once I cook those noodles, the next thing I'm gonna do is put some of this beautiful saute all around those noodles. So when I serve up the dish, I wanna make sure I get about 3 ounces of the chicken and some of the beautiful colors all on top. I wanna make sure the eyes eat first. So I'm adding some of the asparagus and some of that beautiful cabbage, and then make sure I add even a little bit of the unexpected, so a little bit of red tomato on top. And here comes our sauce. I hear it bubbling away. Look how beautiful that is. It's starting to thicken up just perfectly. We still want it to have a little bit of fluidity because we're gonna pour it right over the top of our beautiful dish, just so that it gets those noodles moist. See, that is perfect texture right there. Okay, so just a little bit all around the top. Oh my goodness. There we go. And now for the finishing touches, a little bit of toasted almonds all around the top. So beautiful, right? Look at that. All right, so clear off the edge of that plate and make it look beautiful for presentation. There we are. Now, of course, we have to do one more thing. So I think I have some cilantro. So just like they do in the restaurants, we gotta make it extra pretty. So I'm gonna just do a little bit of sprinkle around. So mixing in the cooked with fresh makes it so special. It makes everything really pop. Look at how pretty that turned out. There you have it. Enjoy dinner, one dish meal.